Hey everybody, it's me, Bryson Booker, back with another video with my Soundcraft Signature 16 console and my JBL Eon Power 15. I want to do a series of tutorial videos on how to use the Signature 16 for live sound or even for recording. And this video is going to show you how to simply just set the gain on the console. Now, I know what some of you audio guys are thinking, like, dude, I know how to set the gain. Well, for some consoles, gain setting may be a little bit different. It differs from console to console. You don't set the gain on a Mackie the same way that you would on a Soundcraft or a Yamaha or a Allen & Heath. But the principle of how to set the gain is very similar when it comes to different types of consoles. Different consoles just, either have more gain, than others or less gain than others. This Soundcraft happens to have, you have to kind of push the preamp a little bit, and I was kind of scared about this when I first got it. I'm like, oh, there must be a defect in this console. There's like something wrong. But no, if you just use like a general SM58, SM58s do require, a pretty decent amount of gain, to have proper headroom, or a proper volume, I'm sorry. And so if you get an SM58, just keep that in mind. It will eat up a bunch of your gain, but you'll get, the most out of the microphone if you set the gain correctly. So that's just an SM58. But even other mics and other sources running through this console, you find yourself boosting the gain a bit more than you would on, I don't know, a Mackie console. But again, there's nothing wrong with the console. That's just the way Soundcraft constructs their gain structure. So there's nothing wrong with the console. There's nothing wrong with your speakers. Well, unless your speaker is turned all the way down or halfway down, then you're not going to get an accurate representation of what you're even doing on the gain. So make sure all of your amplifier levels, equalizer levels, everything is practically set flat at unity. And then you can start to set the gain on the console. So I'm just going to do this with a simple SM58. And so this is going to be my first tutorial video, and then I'll do some more in the future. So when it comes to setting gain, again, you want the most volume out of the microphone that you can get. But when I say this, I don't mean, literally cranking up the gain to the point where it's like all of the gain that the console can give, because then you'll be hitting clipping, which I will show you and which you will hear, and that eventually will lead into feedback from your speakers. But you want to get the most out of the microphone in the sense where whether you are up very close to the microphone or whether you're slightly far away, the volume is very uniform throughout. So whether the microphone be up to your lips or far away, you won't have to worry about a mismatch in levels. If the gain is set too low, then you'll end up having to pull your fader all the way up, and then it's like, well, you got no headroom now. If the gain is too high, then you may end up running your fader down there, and it's like, okay, it's like sometimes you don't even know who's contributing the most because the gain is just set too high. So setting your gain is important when it comes to microphones and instruments as well. If mixers like this didn't have a gain on there, then sources like a microphone, such as this SM58, which doesn't have a high gain anyway, or something with extremely high gain, such as, I don't know, a bass amp, you would be running that in here, and then you would have no control, however, or whatsoever, over the signal that's coming into this. So you would literally have to rely on the faders, and again, your bass rig, you may have to run right there because it's so hot. And then your vocal mic, again, you may have to run all the way up there because it's so weak. So gain helps us to set the signal level for each source coming into the console. So again, it's not used as a volume control. The faders are the volume control. The gain just sets the amount of signal from the source that's coming into the console. So we can have a nice healthy signal to start with, and then once we get that nice healthy signal, then we can EQ it and use the faders to mix it with other sources. And that's it. So it's pretty simple. So what I like to do, and there's a billion ways that people love to do this, and so this is not the only way to set gain, but this is how I was taught and how it works for me. But I set my fader here at unity, And then I'm going to press my PFL button. PFL means pre-fade listen. Other consoles call this a solo button. So if you use, I don't know, again, going back to Mackie, because Mackie always does this, they put solo where PFL is. And again, that's just another way of saying PFL. So generally, this light will light up when the PFL is engaged. Pretty simple. And so I kind of dialed in my EQ just a little bit. Again, this is where, you know, some people become kind of cloudy. They think that, you know, you have the EQ set flat, then you set the gain. But sometimes when you have the EQ set flat, you know, obviously you're going to be EQing it during the show. And so, you know, whatever voice get on your microphone, you may have to add a touch of EQ. But we'll start the EQ flat, and then I'll let you hear what happens, you know, once the EQ is messed with, and you may have to add a little bit more or a little bit less gain. It depends. But sometimes when you use the EQ, you know, your gain level may go down a little bit, and you may have to add a little bit more. But we'll start with it flat for now. So here we go. So I'm kind of doing this with one hand, so excuse me. So I'm going to talk into my microphone, just turn my gain up just a little bit, just to get signal in there. Check, 1, 2. Check, 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 1, 2. I'm coming to through the speaker as well, but let me turn my mains down so I don't get feedback. Check, 1, 2. Hey, check, 1, 2. So right now the gain is extremely low, so I'm going to turn it up more. And keep in mind where my gain level is set. So right now I'm right here. And again, generally on a Mackie or a Yamaha or even an Allen and Heath, this is where you would get unity gain. But with this Soundcraft signature, you have to keep going to get more. Check, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2. So you want to hit between 0 dB and that first yellow light right there, which is what I'm doing. So the loudest parts will hit the yellow. Hey, check, 1, 2. And generally the soft parts that I'm doing right now, just talking in a normal voice, will either hit 0 dB or negative 3 dB. But this is a healthy gain setting right here. So again, with an SM58, you do kind of have to crank it, but you get some healthy level. Here's what happens if you do not set the gain correctly. So if I turn that all the way up, I'm hitting clipping on my meters, and you don't want that. So again, right here, I would say it's a good gain level to basically get the most out of this microphone for what it can give. And again, you have headroom, so if you had a soft singer, you know, they would be heard. But if you had an extremely loud singer that's cupping the mic, you would be hitting the yellow, but you still wouldn't be going into clipping unless I really screamed into this thing. Hey, check, 1, 2. See, I'm just hitting that yellow, the second yellow bar. So that's a good thing. If you hit the yellow, it's okay. You know, but obviously if you hit red, then we got a problem. You got your gain set too high. So now let's see what that sounds like through our PA speaker. Again, this is with the EQ set flat. Now it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Where'd the meters go? I just took the PFL off, and so I have to turn my mains up in order to get some metering for the mix here. Check, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2. Now I'm starting to get sound, and I may get a little bit of feedback too because I'm like right in front of the speaker. All right, so let's go up to unity here. Check, 1, 2. Again, the feedback is because I'm right by the speaker. So I'll turn that down a little bit. So as you can see, my fader is at unity here, and I'm actually down a little bit on my mains, but I still have so much more headroom. And this is just me talking in my normal voice, again with the EQ set flat. You know, I can push this up even more and get more volume from it and still have more headroom because I'm not even pushing my master up yet. So yeah, setting gain is important. So now, as you can see, my mouth is not really that close to the microphone, and I'm still heard through the PA speaker. It's pretty pretty good signal coming through, coming to the microphone. You know, and so even if I put it up to my mouth, again, sorry about that feedback. Even if I put it up to my mouth, you know, I still have, you know, volume, and I can still push my voice even more. So now we're going to play with the EQ a little bit, because I hear some muddiness in my voice from 400 hertz. So I'm going to do my usual EQing on this mixer. And for my voice in particular, you know, all I have to do is basically cut a little bit of 2K and then a buttload of 400 hertz, and then I'm good to go. As well as a little bit at the bass of 60 hertz. Okay, so let's check our gain setting now. Now that we did our EQ, let's look at it. Check, 1, 2, check, hey, 1, 2. See, it's a bit lower now because we did some EQing. So to get it back up to where we had it before, yeah, we may have to boost it just a little bit. So we're at 0 dB. And keep in mind, you know, this could happen, you know, even if you're just applying EQ to anything. It will change your gain. So watch when you boost frequencies like the bass frequency and the treble frequency and even some mid-range frequencies, because it will add, you know, volume to the signal and it will change your gain. So we'll have to add a little bit more gain. Check, 1, 2, hey, to get us back in a healthy position. Check, 1, 2, whoa, hey. Alrighty. Alright, here we go. So now that we added that little bit of EQ, that changed our gain a little bit. And so now that we kind of EQ'd the signal a little bit, we had to set our gain back to where it was before. So sometimes your gain setting will depend on what you set the EQ as. Yes, I would start out with it flat, but as soon as you make a change, whether you boost a frequency or whether you cut a frequency, it's going to change your gain. So you may have to kind of fiddle with it again once you EQ your sources, just to make sure you have healthy level. And again, I know I'm going to get feedback from this speaker because I'm literally standing right in front of it. But this is where, you know, something like a graphic EQ would come in, you know, to EQ this monitor on stage. But we don't have that. So that's the way that you set the gain here on the Soundcraft Signature Console. It's pretty simple. You just got to make sure you do it right and that you have a good source producing a good sound. Again, if you don't have your vocals, the person singing your vocals actually singing in the microphone, and if they're far away from the microphone like this, that's really going to change your gain setting, and you may have to set it a bit higher. So make sure they're actually talking or singing in the microphone before you even start setting gain. It'll help you out a lot, trust me. But that's it. Thanks for watching.